Hey, I'm Travis.
And I'm Adele.
And we are The Noble Marriage.
Welcome, returning friends. We're glad you're here. And if you're new here, welcome. We are so glad to have you. The Lord put us on this path because we have our own God story of healing and restoration in our marriage. And we want to share this freedom with couples all over the world.
We hope that through our channel, you will be inspired and motivated so that your marriage will be all that God created it to be.
And for me, food has been an ongoing battle for as long as I can remember. Like, I say to myself, you're not going to eat any sweets because sweets make you gain weight. Well, because I internally say that to myself, I'm like rebelling.
This is why none of my diets ever worked. You were talking about that yo-yo effect where you're going back and forth and back and forth.
Hey, and welcome back. We are in comment of the week, which was on YouTube this time around.
Yeah, this is from Peter, and he's responding back to a conversation we had on our YouTube channel where we talked about our relationship to food. And we said, if you wanted to hear about it, let us know. And so Peter wrote, yes, I want to hear my relationship to food video, his and her additions. So Peter, here you go.
One of the practices that we have is we do a meditation every morning, and typically it's around 5 to 10 minutes of meditation, and we use Headspace typically. And the other day, the one that we listened to was just so impactful, and both of us got so much out of it. And it all revolves around our relationship to food. And so we want to share it with our friends on our channel. And we really hope that you can experience the freedom that we felt around this meditation. The quote is, in trying to bend our will to that which is helpful, we strengthen the ego. So let's dive in. Like, what does that really mean?
It takes me to my relationship with food. And you and I have already talked about this. Like, I have a particular way I think about food, especially whenever I am tired or depleted or during different seasons of the year.
For me, food has been an ongoing battle for as long as I can remember. Like, it definitely goes back into my early 20s. I think it is when my critical self also showed up, because I started noticing that I can't just eat whatever I want to eat anymore. I'm starting to gain weight. The experience of that and the downward spiral that I was in, looking back, it controlled so much of my life. And where it's talking about in trying to bend our will to that which is helpful. So if we put that in the relationship to food, it's like saying, I'm only going to eat healthy food and I'm not going to eat any unhealthy food, right? Which is, it's bending, like it's trying to control me. It's controlling me and strengthening the resistance at the same time. So I see it as like a parent-child relationship where I say to myself, you're not going to eat any sweets because sweets make you gain weight. Well, because I internally say that to myself, I'm like rebelling against it, which is the bending of the will to that which is helpful. I'm trying to bend my will so that I can help my body be healthier, and I'm resisting it, which is strengthening the ego on the other side.
This is why none of my diets ever worked.
Yeah.
None of my diets ever worked. Like that whole conversation I had was starting Monday. We're going to eat healthy. We're going to do this or we're going to do that. And it may or may not work out for you. It would work out for me temporarily. I have a certain amount of willpower to make sure I check the right boxes, eat the right food. But then I end up like, oh, I just really need this or this. And my willpower is not strong enough.
Diets would work temporarily for me because once that control over me is gone, like once I lift that control, I would go overboard. Like I would be binge eating and snacking, and it's because that control is gone finally. And I really saw in this meditation my resistance to that. And it's also rejecting the thoughts. So let me just share, I really haven't struggled with my weight now in about 3 years, because I really learned that balance is the key. And eating until I'm full and not going past that. And no matter what I want to eat, if I'm full, I don't go past it. And it has worked really well for me, and I haven't struggled, but I also do eat fairly healthy. And so now we're at Christmas time, we're working from home. So there's some changes that have taken place in our life. We walk every morning, but lately it's been so cold outside, and so we haven't been able to exercise in the morning. We do yoga and that works, but my brain doesn't see that as enough to overpower the sweets that I've been eating. Mm-hmm. And so over the last month, I love Christmas treats. Who doesn't love Christmas treats?
Peanut butter balls.
And I want them all the time. And so what I find myself doing is, you can't have it at all. None. Which makes me want it more. And so the moment that control is lifted, where I'm like, okay, you can just have one, I'm like cramming it in my mouth because that control is gone. And so I just love how it connects. Like, our brain is so powerful that it starts to connect the dots. Like, okay, I'm not exercising. I'm sitting a lot of the day, where I used to stand a lot during the day. I'm eating more sweets than I normally would eat on a regular basis. So once the brain has connected the dots, my internal thoughts start beating me up. Like, it says things like, you just ate that chocolate and now you're gonna gain 2 pounds. Like, oh, and I want to mention, a couple weeks ago, I got on the scale for the first time in a long time, and it was 2 pounds more than what I was, which is not a big deal. I fluctuate 4 pounds all the time. Mm-hmm. But for some reason, and it's because of our brain connecting the dots, my brain latched on to it. Like, see, here you go, gaining weight. And now you're eating more chocolate. Like, don't you know that the next time you're going to look in the mirror, your face is going to be fat? Or I'll go look in the mirror and I don't see what's actually there. I see fat, I see flab, I see imperfection. And this is something I haven't struggled with in a long time. So I'm very aware that it is happening and the amount of my thoughts that it is consuming. And so I love this meditation because I am in the middle of struggling with this food relationship and what is going on for me on the inside. Why am I so out of control feeling? And I really it's because I'm controlling myself. I'm controlling the ego, is why it wants to just go out of balance. Mm-hmm.
I was thinking as you was talking, you were talking about that yo-yo effect where you were going back and forth and back and forth, and
diet, like starve myself, overeat, starve myself, overeat. Back and forth.
And then keep going back and forth.
Yeah.
And I did the same thing. I remember I lost a good bit of weight, and I went from a size 38 pants to a size 34 and then a 33. And I kept my size 38 and size 36 pants around just in case.
Just in case. I did the same thing. I kept all my big clothes around. I've lost 57 pounds. You've lost 50 something.
Yeah, 55.
We've lost a good bit of weight around 3 years ago, and we've kept it off. And we just recently got rid of all of those clothes because we were like, why are we hanging? We're not going back.
That makes no sense for me to keep it, because the reason I kept it is I knew my past. I'm a very predictable person. By the way, so are you. I knew that I would just go back. I would yo-yo back because that's what I do. That's what I do. I don't have to. Once I learn that, once I have awareness around it.
That is the key.
Awareness is the key. And then I can make a choice. So, like, for instance, specifically in the evening, I have a tough time with, let's just go get the chocolate peanut butter balls. Man, I love those. and I'm thinking, I just want to get one or two of those. Once I know it's a choice, I can go get those and eat those if it's an actual choice that I'm making. Like I know that I want it and I know that there's consequences involved with it and I'm making it as a choice. But then there's that whole willpower thing. If I'm using that and then it becomes a battle and what you resist persists. And so if I'm battling going to get it, I'm just having all these things going on in my mind and I end up getting it, eating it, then I have shame, then I have guilt, and I beat myself up, and then I do it again, and that is a roller coaster ride that is exhausting.
It is downhill roller coaster.
Yeah, that's an exhausting roller coaster ride that I have lived for 40-something years, and I'm determined to never live that way again because I have awareness, and awareness is key.
Yeah, and what he's referring to around the choice, if I'm putting that into food, it's if I am controlling myself of don't eat sweets, they're not good for you and you're going to gain weight if you eat them. If I'm controlling myself and the thought comes up, go get a sweet, go get that peanut butter ball, they're so tasty, and I resist it and reject it, it actually grows. It becomes more powerful. But when I have awareness that, okay, I have 40 to 65,000 thoughts a day. There's another thought. It's just a thought. It doesn't have to have any significance over me. The awareness is seeing the thought first, and then I get to have a choice. Do I really want that? Does that line up with who I'm committed to being, which is a healthy woman, someone who eats healthy and takes care of my body and is in the best shape that I've ever been in? Does that line up with what I actually want? Well, no, it doesn't. Now I have a choice. Okay, well, do I really want it anyways, or can I walk away from it? Wow, just since we listened to this meditation, I have been able to look at something and have the thoughts come up. Like the other night, you were eating that pumpkin dessert, and I was like, yeah, that doesn't line up with really what I want. It would taste amazing. No doubt. I would have loved to enjoy that, but it doesn't get me closer to where I actually want to be.
Right.
It's not in a controlling way, which is how I did it in the past. I would control it, which is why the yo-yo effect happens. You gain weight, lose weight, gain weight, lose weight. And then the other thing was, and this has popped up for me over the last couple weeks also, is before I actually lost the weight, I had this mental image, and it was a picture of myself from the biggest that I ever was in that time frame. And every time I think of me in my mind, that's what I see. That's the picture that's in my mind, is the biggest I've ever been. Why that is, it blows my mind why I gravitate to picturing myself 50 pounds heavier when I don't look like that at all. But yet my choices and my willpower, my ego, and all those things play into it. And my critical self is like, see, this is what you're going to look like. And it's so defeating and discouraging. And it takes me down this thought train that is like destroying my identity and who I am and what I'm committed to and all of those things. And so when I'm able to just see it and have that awareness that, oh, that image does not line up with what I actually look like, I replace that image with where I'm headed. And so I have in my mind like these like cut gorgeous arms and defined abs, and that's the image that I want to be thinking, because we create ourselves, we create our life with our thoughts.
Yep.
And so if the quality of my thoughts are headed towards being overweight, guess what? That's where I'm headed. That's
Absolutely.
where I'm going. All my choices and everything I do are going to line up with that. And so if I replace it with something that is serving me, that's going to help me get closer to my actual goals in life, then I create that. That's the way I go. My choices start to line up with that. But as long as I have control, resist, rejection towards anything around food, I rebel against that. And I think it is just our human nature. We don't like to be controlled. And it's the same way I don't like to be controlled by me.
That's really
so
good.
Crazy.
I think that that was so good, and letting that sink in about the thoughts is powerful. You going back to what you said, there's 48 to 60,000 thoughts a day that we have. That's a lot of thoughts. And for whatever reason, we choose to hold on to certain thoughts.
Create significance
and
around
create some
certain
type of
ones.
significance around them. And a lot of times what I did was I would have a thought about, oh, we should go get ice cream. And it's nighttime. And I don't really want to go get ice cream because that's not what I'm committed to being. But I have a thought. I want to go get ice cream. But when it becomes who I am, like when I have that thought and I'm thinking it's Travis
having that thought,
who is that thought, like it's me who has a thought, then I'm almost left with, I need to go get the ice cream. But when I can separate it as that's just one of 48 to 60 something thousand thoughts a day that I'm having, that's just one. I can choose to look at it like, oh, wow, that's just one thought. There you are. And it's not who I am.
So we talk a lot about our marriage transformation course. And in the first part of it, the very first session, we talk about vision. And we believe vision is so important individually, as a married couple, as a family, for your business, things like that. Because when you have a big overall picture of where I'm headed, like for me, I am headed to being the healthiest version of myself that I've ever been. And I'm going to continue making choices that get me closer to that. And because I know what my vision is, when it's the same thing like when you're using a GPS, because your GPS knows where you're headed, it's going to send you the correct turns that you need to take. And so you take those turns. But then when the wrong turn shows up, I'm easily able to look at that GPS and be like, that doesn't belong there. And it's the same way with vision. If I don't have a vision of where I'm headed and what is in my future, of who I want to be, then those left turns are going to come along and I'm not going to recognize that it's a left turn. Like example is food. If I don't know where I'm headed and I know what I want to be and what I'm committed to, and that like dessert presents itself, I'm going to eat it because I don't have a vision of what's ahead for me. And so I don't know that it's a choice that's not going to serve me. But I'm going to beat myself up about it later. Don't you worry. But if I know where I'm headed, I can look at that dessert and be like, yeah, that's not going to really serve what I'm committed to becoming and looking and being healthy and all those things. And so your vision of who you are and where you're headed, and same for your marriage, your life, your business, all of it, is so important so that you know those correct turns that you need to be taking to get you where you want to be. One of the things we really recognize in this also is the enemy loves to look for that little bit of weakness that you have. And for me, it's sweets and sugar and baked goods and things like that. That is a weakness for me. And so when I give in to that weakness, the enemy's like, ooh, let's expand on this one. We got her. And that's when all those critical thoughts start coming in. And, you know, those are the kind of things that are passed down from generation to generation to generation, like body image stuff, like how you talk about your body in front of your children. They are listening to that, and they are going to start talking about their bodies the same way you do. And so the enemy loves that because that's that generational sin that is extremely hard to break.
Oh, yeah.
But if he can like really get you off track in that little bit of weakness and expand it, then he's really got you. And so that's where Travis said awareness is key. It is, because if I don't know that's the enemy and he is trying to discourage me and shut me down, like I was having thoughts of, you're still gonna get on camera when you're another 50 pounds heavier because of all those and I'm like, what in the world is going on up there? This is ridiculous. And I saw it was all out of me controlling and resisting and rejecting and all those things, which really made so much sense to me, how the enemy works in our minds. Yes. And how he is so slick and sly and how he can just weasel his way in that little opening that I gave him and just wreak havoc in my life. Because when I'm not feeling good about myself, it definitely affects my marriage, because I don't want to be sexually intimate when I'm feeling all like, blah, I ate too much.
Right.
You know, and then day after day after day, I don't feel sexy. I don't feel attractive. I look in the mirror and I see fat. So how am I going to take my clothes off? You know, it transfers into every area. And if the enemy can get me there, man, he can really destroy my life in that one little weakness that I showed.
There is an enemy, and I believe hell exists not only in the future, but right now in my mind and some of the quality of thoughts that I have. And what you were talking about when you have a particular thought about food, and then you were talking about these shameful thoughts that come in, or this willpower that comes in. It's still one of the 40-something to 60-some thousand thoughts we have a day. They're just competing against each other now. They're just like, I have a thought about food, and then I have all these backup thoughts about my self-image. And it's just thoughts battling thoughts. And I'm not in awareness until I'm like, oh, wait a minute, that's just a thought. But otherwise, it's just your thoughts having a bunch of competing thoughts against each other.
Yeah.
And it's just having awareness that that's all it is, and letting them go, because the enemy wants you to stay stuck. Not only in your personal life when it comes to food, but in your marriage or in your business or anywhere else. He wants you to stay stuck and ineffective.
So the key of what has worked really well for us, I mentioned it at the beginning, is balance. I no longer control what I'm eating. Like if I want to have that sweet, I'm going to eat it if I know that's what I want, but I'm going to eat it in portion. I'm not going to overeat it, which was my past behaviors of, I couldn't just stop with like 2 bites of something. I had to eat the whole thing. And now I've realized it's just about that taste that's so sweet and so glorious. And I really get the satisfaction from 2 bites and I feel good because I didn't overdo it. But when I overdo it, it sends me down that yo-yo path again. And so it's all about balance and just eating until you're satisfied. And don't eat if you're not hungry. Like I don't eat lunch because I am not hungry in the middle part of the day. That's what works for me. And so when I eat lunch, then I eat dinner, and then I feel, I just feel so full all the time. That does not work for me. And so really finding like, what is your body's balance? Because when you can get in a balance, you can overcome this relationship with food that you've been struggling with all these years. And there is freedom out there for you around this. It starts with having awareness around your thoughts and what is going on up there, so that you can actually have freedom of choice in how you want to live your life. So you can see in what we were saying, it's the same intention with a different approach, right? Letting go of thoughts and not giving them significance is a different outcome than really controlling my ego and having that willpower, and creates all that resistance and rejection. So same intention, different outcome. It's like putting a hat on, trying it on, seeing what works. If it doesn't work for you, just take that hat back off and do what works for you. But this is just something that we have had personal struggle around. and so much freedom is available for you there. Thanks so much for joining us today, and we look forward to seeing you in the next conversation.
Bye.
Bye. You're not finished yet. If you found value in this video, please like and comment and let us know what you found value in. This helps us create more content that you love and ultimately you want to share with your friends and family. And this is how the Noble Marriage will impact and inspire marriages all over the world. We want you to join our community of awesome, like-minded people. Go ahead and hit that subscribe button and you'll receive motivational videos that will impact your life and inspire you to be your best self. Speaking of inspirational, there are 2 videos we've attached here for further resources. So thank you for your engagement and joining our community.